Hello, everybody, and welcome back. You haven't heard us for a while, but here we are. It is the one and only Two Kobolds in a Trench Coat, and we are returning with a trope episode. And this week, we are talking about one of our favourites, the lone wolf.
Oh, yeah. One of our favourite. Yes, we are still alive. Hello, everybody. We didn't get buried down in the Kobold caverns.
No,
The lone wolf. This trope works so well in films, but it's really not so great in.
not in a collaborative TTRPG. It does not work.
No, it's really not. Now, that's not to say that it can't work, because there are, as you see in the movies, there are times when the lone wolf hero teams up with others, and so it can work, but you have to work really hard to get it to work, I find.
Yeah.
So the lone wolf trope is also known as the I work alone trope.
I was just about to say, let's go into what it actually means.
What actually is it? So what is this lone wolf trope? It's also called the I work alone trope. Big old examples of this: Bill in The Last of Us is a lone wolf. At the very beginning of the Incredibles movie, Mr. Incredible is a lone wolf type. He outright turns around and says, "Fly home, Billy, I work alone."
And then when he goes
literally
on Incredible, and he turns around and says to him, "I'm not affiliated with you."
I'm not affiliated with you, though.
One of my
So-
favourite bits from that film. Always makes me laugh.
Yeah, so those are just two of your possible lone wolf characters, but they are defined by their insistence on working alone. They refuse partnerships or offers to join teams, and even if they do kind of ally with others, they're more often than not run off to do something by themselves.
I mean, technically, if you think about it in the superhero parlance, it's more like Wolverine can be a lone wolf, and I would even say Batman.
To a degree, yeah. At
To a degree,
least
he does have
certainly
the Bat
right in
family.
the very beginning. Before he takes Robin under his
trusty
wing.
ward,
his
Dick Grayson, acrobat extraordinaire,
under the batty wing.
Indeed.
But depending on which version you read or watch, he insists on not having a partner right up until the very end.
Yeah. Takes pity on the kid. He's like, "Oh, come on then."
Come on then. But doesn't want him involved in his shit,
No. I still want to lone wolf it. So in a TTRPG setting then, let's play this out. What would you, if you were the DM and I as a player started to pull off, what kind of things would you be looking for to be like, hang on a second, this guy's doing the lone wolf.
The lone wolf.
The lone wolf. I haven't spoken for a long while.
But,
the lone wolf thing, where am I sneaking off away from my teammates? Am I kind of doing things like, if we're dungeon crawling, am I taking a different direction? What is it that you're looking out for as a DM to go, red flag?
So obviously there's the obvious signs, which are the saying, I don't work well in a group, or I prefer to work alone. That kind of bullshit. It's a very early sign of a lone wolf trope.
It's an easy alliance, isn't it? It's there's a mutual agreement here, but once that's over, we're
through. We're
dead to
parting
me.
ways.
Yeah, you're dead to me. That's it. I will fly free again.
To be honest, the biggest red flag the biggest flag for me for the lone wolf type is that they don't get, not necessarily emotionally involved, because that's deep stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to happen all the time, but they don't get involved in the other characters. They'll always sort of separate themselves off to one side. They'll always, I'm on watch all the time, even if I have to
they're always
sleep
on the periphery. They're always on the outskirts. Like, I don't want to get involved in your petty disputes. I'm over here looking brooding. And menacing and slightly smouldering.
That's the big one for me. because they're not finding common ground with other characters. They're not trying to forge any bonds. They're actively distancing themselves and, not learning anything about the other characters. You don't tend to want to stay for too long with people that you don't know, that you don't interact with. I personally really hate being in a room full of strangers, not doing anything, like just sitting there. It's like, so if I have to go on a train or something like that, I don't like being with strangers like that. I'm just like, oh, this freaks me out. I don't want this. So I will usually busy myself texting someone I know, or I'll read a book. And then as soon as physically possible, I will get the fuck off that train, My stop, right? I'm off. Bye. Right at the front. I'm always right at the doors as they're opening, and I'm gone. I don't like being in a space with strangers that I'm not going to interact with. If I am actively building that barrier between me and the other characters, they're not going to want to travel with me either.
That's true.
So for me, that barrier, basically, it creates a reason for them to not continue traveling. So once this quest that they're on together is over, what are they going to do? They could head off on their own, they could start adventuring, but the lone wolf is building that barrier between them, and folks are just going to be like, oh, you're off doing that.
Yeah. It doesn't fit in the majority, and they'll be like, well, you do you, we'll see you around.
No. Lone wolves as well also have a habit. I've found this. I don't know if this is really a thing. Something that I've noticed in my games, the lone wolves in my games also tend to, they fall one of two ways. They either get on really well with all of the NPCs and then make you wonder why they're not getting on better with the PCs, or they actively hate the NPCs and just don't interact well with them either and end up.
Okay, yeah.
That's something that I've noticed that might just be in my games. That's not necessarily part of the trope
exclusive,
itself.
yeah.
But it's something that I've noticed. They'll either be really iffy with the party, but really good with the NPCs, or they'll be really iffy with both, and they'll cause trouble wherever they go.
Yeah.
It's an attitude that's meant to portray your character as a badass. So they prefer to work alone because I don't need help. You're level 1, Barry. You're level fucking 1. You need help.
Barry the Rogue. Level 1 Barry the Rogue
level
is
one
like,
Barry
I'm going it alone. It's like, good luck with those 10 hit points or whatever you get.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You're going to do real well out there, I'm going to take down this dragon. Really? Really?
I think you might be done here, Barry.
I think you need someone to temper your expectations.
Would you suggest, though, a lone wolf character would work as an NPC helping the party?
I think they can. I have a couple of lone wolf type NPCs, those that do prefer to operate alone. They flit in, they deliver their information, they interact with the characters, and then they flit back out and they disappear to do their little lone wolf business, whatever that may be. For one of my lone wolves that's running around just basically causing a nuisance to everyone else, which is great.
Is it one of those situations where it's a big swish of the cape and like, till next time, and he just vanishes?
So
one of those sort of situations?
Yeah. Yeah. But the reason that this guy prefers to work alone is because his abilities mean that he can't always distinguish friend from foe with his abilities. He doesn't like hurting people that he shouldn't be hurting. So he prefers to work alone so that he doesn't accidentally hurt his allies. And, that's, that he's a nice guy. He's a good guy. But he has a habit of losing his temper and losing control of the big shadow demon that follows him around. So, whoopsie, not a good idea.
And again, that sort of plays into the lone wolf trope, like the Incredible Hulk. I've got this thing that I can't let it be around people, so I'm going to just have to walk the highways alone, doing what I can, and because I can't be around people because it's too dangerous. I'm too dangerous.
But the thing is, Bruce Banner can work among people. You just have to be aware of that thing. And part of overcoming that variant of the lone wolf trope is that you find out what the trigger is. What's the trigger for this? And then you help that character control it. So when you play that kind of trope, I can't control this thing inside of me, you have to allow for the other player characters to maybe find out by accident or on purpose, accidentally on purpose. Like it's an or completely orchestrated thing. I want to talk with the DM. I want to orchestrate this moment where I have a bit of a moment and something happens and they find out. It works. It's a little, it is orchestrated, but we had a warlock whose patron actually lived inside his head, literally shared a body with him. Nobody knew until the warlock accidentally told the fiend, yeah, why don't you take the reins for a minute and let the fiend come to the front. At which point I was there delightedly channeling my inner Alan Rickman and just being as delightfully snarky as I possibly could. And it was wonderful. But it was orchestrated, but in a manner that the player didn't necessarily know exactly how it was going to go down, which was fun for him because I was in a position where I actually could have just taken over his character. And there was a point where he thought, oh God, if the other players don't do what this demon is asking, it might do something horrible to my body.
Yeah, there's a potential for that to happen.
He was sending me messages going, oh God, I hope they figure this out quick. Shit, what did they just say to him? Oh my God. I'm a bit worried now. I think you're about to TPK us with this demon. And I was like, don't worry, I wouldn't do that. I might kill 3 of you, but not all of you.
But would you say then, as the lone wolf trope, as we're discussing here, would you say that there's a potential that it does more harm than good? Seeing as, like, for example, this is an extreme version. Like you're in combat, the party's fighting something, the lone wolf character decides, I'm going to cut and run, or I'm going to cut and do something else. Is there the potential for that to? Well, that is, yeah. In actual fact, that is a potential to cause a lot of damage to potentially a TPK a party, let's say, because if Barry the rogue, let's say he's level 5 or 10 or something, he decides sticking to my lone wolf abilities. If this fight's not going our way, I'm gonna dash out the chamber and head off down the hallway or something. So you're potentially doing that and leaving your party to fend for itself.
So we had someone in a game that I was in a while back. They were, interestingly enough, playing a rogue, and they had the horrible habit of running off on their own, just to do their own thing. They were a bit hypocritical. They would bang on about we should be honest with each other. We should, be doing XYZ as a group. We should trust each other. And then they were running off by
Right.
themselves.
So not being 100% truthful there.
No, they very much were like, I'm doing this for my own gain. This is what my character would do. He would just go off and do his own thing. This character very often would sneak off ahead of the party.
Oh, okay.
Would then not come back and tell them what they'd found. They'd just carry on going. So the party would be under the impression that this person was supposed to be communicating with them to come back and say, okay, well, we're going this way. But they'd come to like a fork in the road and they'd be like, okay, we don't actually know which way the rogue's gone. So we'll just have to wait here until we know where it's at. But then ultimately, the rogue's fucked off, is doing their own thing, is pilfering all the things, picking all the locks, doing whatever the fuck they want to satisfy their urge to be a klepto bastard. And then suddenly the rest of the party gets ambushed. So we're all on our own. We're without our rogue. We're not all on our own. The 4 of us are together. We've got ambushed. And then the rogue gets caught. The rogue gets ambushed. It's 3-on-1 against the rogue. And it's like, party, come and help me. Dude, we're fighting back here.
Yeah, if you haven't
can't,
realised.
in case you hadn't realised, if you'd come back and told us, I'm taking the left path, we would have followed you. And we wouldn't have been caught by the guys coming from the other fork, would we? But no.
No.
They
No.
frequently running off, doing their own thing, disappearing off into the night, not telling the party everything, keeping lots of secrets.
Massive red flags.
Then being hypocritical and saying things like, oh, well, we should be honest with each other. We should tell each other if there's anything that could harm us. It's like, dude, I've already told you that I ran away from home because my dad was going to sell me to a man 3 times my age to be used as a sex slave. What more do you need to know about my backstory right now? I've known you for like 3 days.
Yeah.
I'm not going to...
I mean, that's the thing though, isn't it? It's that inability to integrate into the group, which makes them very hard to play alongside in a fantasy, in a tabletop setting, because the player sitting around you is doing this, and you're like, I don't really know how to approach the player per se, but the character, no one else in the party wants to be around this character. They're like, we can't trust them. They don't know if they're going to be there by morning once we've had a long rest. We don't even know if they might rob us in the night while we're all asleep. There is that sort of inter-party conflict that's unnecessary because this person's going, well, my character just does his own thing, guys. It's like, but that also means we've got license to checkmate what your behavior is by going, hold person, whatever, or you're going to be put in a force cage until we decide what to do with you, or something like that. I don't understand the want to play that type of character. I get the way I imagine you could do it is this person has been alone, they've traveled alone, and okay, they may be suspicious of allies and others, but eventually they grow to trust and integrate into the group and become an effective team member and all that sort of stuff. You could play it that way and show the gradual growth of the character as you go, which would be good and fun and a bit of a challenge because you're playing on different RP moments with different characters and and all that sort of stuff. But then the other hand is just like, I'm just here for the money, guys. And you're like
Mercy.
In session 0, we all said we all knew each other. We all said we've been a party for X amount of years. So we don't have to do this whole, I don't know you guys, and I'm not sure I can trust you. It's like, well, if you were there, in the session 0, we clearly stated we'd been a party for about 5 years. So we know each other really well. So where's this coming from out of left field all of a sudden? I can't trust you guys.
So, like you said about, I'm just in it for the money. Mercy.
True. Yeah.
Who were playing is in it for the money. But she's not against teaming up with people. She will hold them at arm's length. I believe that's called the aloof ally trope.
Yes, it's less lone wolf, it's aloof and a little bit distant because you're
she's not really a lone wolf because she always has Fallon with her regardless, but she is an aloof ally to everyone else. The thing with the lone wolf is that it can go one of 2 ways. It turns into the ineffectual loner trope, which is like working by yourself. You try to work by yourself and it always fails, even though you insist you can do it. Or it can be the independent ally. You cooperate from the get-go, you befriend the others, but if you're given the chance to work by yourself, you do. You thrive in that kind of environment. Like, you need me to do something on my own? All right then, I'll show you that I can do this.
First one to volunteer, first jumping at the chance. Yeah.
Now, the ineffectual loner normally runs into the power of friendship trope, which it's as cheesy as they come.
It wins over every time. The power of friendship.
Wins.
It did for Hawthorne. It did for Hawthorne. He was the grumpy loner to an extent, but he won. He got one over by
Care Bear Kiva.
Kiva's
fucking Kiva. That's what it was.
Power of friendship. Yeah.
I'm your friend. I believe in you. Poof. straight
I'm the only
out of the
one that,
little chest
you may
thing.
not believe in you. Yeah, I believe in you. And, I'm your friend if no one else is. We were just
Yeah.
bludgeoned with friendship until he gave
Oh,
it.
go Care Bear bludgeon.
Yeah,
Friendship
basically. But
stare.
it
Bang
worked
bang.
because he was like, he then understood what friendship was and what friendship meant. And the way it
Yeah.
was played was, okay, yeah, he'd been betrayed, so he was very difficult at trusting people. But that wasn't totally lone wolf. It was, like you say, it was more like Mercy, the
Yeah.
aloof
The
ally.
aloof ally. They do overlap. You can have a lone wolf who is an aloof ally, but you can also have an aloof ally who isn't a lone wolf. They can be somebody who maybe wants to work in a team but is a little bit scared of like keep
Yeah, this is best interest for me. Yeah. And then you turn around and go, well, to combat that, I cast delayed blast fireball
delayed blast fireball.
because I can't trust you, so I'll beat you to the punch.
You've also got the informed loner, which is
Okay.
someone who claims to always be alone, but is actually constantly
Okay.
surrounded by people.
Oh, that's just the poor me trope. The poor me, I'm the martyr and oh guys.
It's
Oh,
sometimes
it's
it's not. Sometimes I've actually seen this. It was very clever. The informed loner. They would wander into town on their own, and people would immediately just sort of hone in on them and
yeah.
want to befriend them. And they're just like, I just got here. I just want to be. I'm. No, I'm okay. I'm by my. No, I'm by myself. No, stop following me. Why are you following me? And it's like, it was really funny. Really, really funny. They were the kind of person who was like, I just kind of work better alone. It was the whole I work better by myself, but I can't get rid of these fuckers kind of thing.
No, I
And it
played a
was
cleric that was like that, who was just scared of everything. So he was like, "Look, everything is makes me jittery and everything makes me like jumpy." He was doing like sacred flames from around no look sacred flames from around corners because he was like, "I can't see it. If I don't see it, I'm not scared of it." And then it was that was the excuse was like, I'm fine on my own because I can handle it, but more people get involved. I get very sort of, what's the word? Yeah, I can't think of the word now. It's gone out of my mind.
it's fallen
Yeah,
out of
you're
your brain.
very jumpy,
Yeah.
very sort of like tetchy about it. Like, oh no, don't
And yeah.
anxious. That's the word. Anxious, and you're sort of like, no, no, don't help me, or I have to get involved and save him. And then he'd be like, I don't know what to do. It was basically decision paralysis cleric. Just like, don't know what to do. I'm too scared to help.
Yeah. It's one of those things. So a lone wolf can work, but you do have to fall into one of those looser tropes. The aloof ally in particular, or even the informed loner, if you end up falling into the ineffectual loner thing, or just you're a fucking asshole kind of trope, then you do need to be beaten by the power of friendship trope. But it can be problematic if, like, even from say the midpoint of the game, you finished your first two quests and now there's the opportunity for you to go off and do something very different. What happens? What does the lone wolf do? The lone wolf is probably going to want to go off on their own. And it's like, how does
Yeah,
this drive the story? At some point, you have to kind of accept your lone wolf cannot be a pure lone wolf. You have to fall into one of the other tropes at some point. You have to slide from the I work alone into something else, an aloof ally or a
yeah.
converted loner thing.
Well, it's that, and it's the mutual beneficial. We'll work together until it suits me. But the
Yeah.
character doesn't have a long shelf life. You're going to be like, as the DM, you'd be like, well, you're going to probably have to just roll up a new character here because you're going to want to like walk away. And it's like, well, that's that then. Because if you're not prepared to stay, then you have to come up with a new character because there's no point keeping a lone wolf around that's not prepared to integrate or, like you say, turn from the aloof one, if he's just like dead set on being he or she, could be either, who knows? Everyone can
They,
be a lone wolf
yeah.
character trope if they want to. But, if they want to be that way, then the character can't exist in the campaign for long. Like we met this loader in the first 3 sessions and then they just disappeared.
There comes a point where I'll join with them until they're no longer of any use to me. But how do you determine, like, how they're going to be of use to you in the future? You go through this thing, it's like, we're done now. We've completed this task. You're no longer useful to me. Let's move on. It's like, great. Fuck off then. Bye.
Well, then you just go, right, should we just mug him then? Just
Yeah.
rob him.
It becomes quite problematic, and
Yeah.
it can lead to a lot of arrogance, thinking that they're lone wolves, thinking they're the only competent guy out of the whole group. It's like, well, I'm clearly the most competent here, so I should be doing this. Or turning around and saying, oh, well, this information is fact, when in fact it's not.
Yeah.
Being very arrogant as a character, it can lead to that, and those are annoying. When a player character thinks that they know better than everyone else, and that includes the NPCs, when a player character turns around and doesn't heed the warnings of NPCs, if you do this, you will get hurt. If you want to do that thing, you should do this first. If you choose that, you cannot come back and choose this later. It won't be there. And a character that thinks they know better. Now, sometimes this is sometimes a player thing. This is sometimes a player thinking they can play their DM. But the issue there is, well, you may be trying to just play your DM. Your DM is probably going to play you too. That's the whole point of,
Yeah.
you're playing each other. In many ways. I won't say that I don't tease my DM. I don't tempt my DM or torment my DM. I absolutely do. I am criminally insane with some of my torments. Like, I'll send...
It goes on, yeah.
God, yes. I will absolutely goad both, like, my Tuesday DM. Can't stop me tormenting that one. I've known him for years. I'll even tease Lolly on the sly. I'll send her, like, hey, you're going to throw something at us like this. This would be pretty cool. Think you can do better than that, eh? And you want to do wave combat, I hear. I've already mastered this. Bring it on. I will totally torment my dear.
It's in good spirit because you're throwing the gauntlet down, going like, look, bring your best because I'm going to bring mine. Best. But there's a flip side to that can go completely the other way. And then you're like, we're in weird waters there.
You get to a point where you get players who think they know better than their DM, who expect everything to be a certain way. And it shows in their character. Well, this is what happens in blah, 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 blah. Right, yeah, but you're actually in... blee blah, not blah blah. So that doesn't actually matter at all. Also, I don't follow that rule. I have a house rule that states this, and I told you about this house rule right at the beginning, so you should know that. And you end up with this situation where people just think they know better. They get characters into dangerous situations.
Now, that's the worst one as a lone wolf, to pull other party members into dangerous situations, potentially lethal because they're incompetence or they're, like, say, arrogance, or a mixture of both, whatever you prefer. Usually it's both. You're incompetent and you're arrogant. It's
one of those things, like, sometimes it can be hard to tell where the character begins and the player ends,
Yeah, you're starting to blur some lines there. Yeah.
Is your character this stupid, or are you just as stupid? I don't know. Why are you doing this? Why would you make that choice? But the lone wolf has a horrible habit of going in that direction. It's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same sort of thing as let's take the obnoxious cocky journalist trope, the one that's always poking their nose into the wrong place and then getting in danger.
Yes.
You see those all over the place. They get in trouble and
Standard stuff.
standard stuff. Or the cocksure wizard trope, I'm a wizard. I have powerful spells at my disposal. I can do anything. I can change the fabric of reality. But I'm made of glass.
Yeah, what was it?
You
One
know,
shot and I'm down.
yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So those kinds of things can end up putting people in danger. The lone wolf. Let's go to the Incredibles again. So right at the beginning, Mr. Incredible is all like, I work alone. And he doesn't want a partner. He doesn't want a group with him. So
Yeah.
when he gets the opportunity to run off and do superhero stuff again, he doesn't tell anybody. He doesn't even tell his best friend, Frozone, that he's going.
No.
He doesn't.
Right, yes, he doesn't. He keeps it all under wraps.
He
doesn't even tell his wife
doesn't tell his
that
wife.
he's up to this.
No.
In
And
Elastigirl.
Elastigirl, yeah. Now, for her part, Elastigirl also falls a little into this lone wolf trope because she tries to go and rescue him alone. She tries to leave the super kids behind, which actually kind of a good idea because, kids. But she still doesn't call for help. She doesn't go to Frozone until, Frozone gets involved at the end after the big spoilers, guys. I mean, Incredibles is 20 years old now, something like that, super old.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Super old now.
Yeah.
So if you haven't seen Incredibles, sorry, this is a spoiler. Great big robot attacks the city at the end. Yeah, where have you been? But the great big robot attacks it. Frozone doesn't get involved until he sees the great big robot appearing in the city. But the first thing he does is sort of goes in and's like, hey, look, it's my friend. It's Mr. Incredible. Hey, I'm coming to help you. He comes in to help. Goes straight to it to help. Doesn't start just pew, pew, pew. Gets in there. What can I do to help? What's going on?
Yeah.
Frozone's a cool guy.
Frozone's the man. He goes in there, he's helping everybody. He's whatever you need. That sort of thing. But you can see both of those, they are, to hold them up to the light in their own ways. They suffer from the lone wolf because they were both single, superheroes that worked alone, didn't work with anybody else. So they fall and that and this is what can happen with, some characters. If that's their backstory, they get enticed by going back to that kind of lone wolf mentality. Going,
yes.
Have I got an opportunity to sort of go it alone and ditch these fools? You're damn right I do. Catch you later, guys. And next minute he's three corridors away in a room with, I don't know, God knows what. And they're like, well, where's he gone? We don't know. We haven't got a clue where he's disappeared. So
we're
just
leave him, it'll be fine.
Yeah, well, we haven't got time. Because again, if you're on a mission or a quest, you're like, we haven't got time to go and find this Joker now. He's split and we don't know where the fuck he's gone. So we've got time is of the essence because, I don't know, let's say that the mad wizard is going to bring down the city from the underground, Mole Man style. Do you know what I mean? It's like, well, we haven't got time to, he's fucked off and left us, so we haven't got time to deal with that because we've got this to deal with, which is vastly more important.
Yeah, but you'll also see in The Incredibles, you find that Mr. Incredible is overpowered by his enemy when he's working alone. Now, Syndrome is not working alone. Syndrome has a lot of people. Now, admittedly, those people are pawns. Those people are people that he controls, but they are people at his back, and he is able to utilize those people to get the best of Mr. Incredible. Ends up capturing him. You then find that Elastigirl is that doesn't work well on her own either because, her plane basically gets shot down. And yeah, she saves the kids. They go into the sea. But it's the fact that that was touch and go. It's the fact that, she turns herself into a boat, but there's no way those three would have been able to swim to shore if they'd just done it under their own strength. She turns into a boat, and then Dash acts as a fucking
as the motor, yeah, to
Yeah.
speed them to sure.
So
Now,
they
the
start
interesting
working
thing
as a
is, though,
team.
I never thought that as we record this, The Incredibles would be used as a sort of idea for like what the lone wolf could be. It was like, yeah, I mean, to be fair, it is true. If you look at it under a microscope, you're like, yeah, they kind of just left their kids behind and were like, we're going back on the superhero game alone. See you later.
Yep.
But I
It's
remember in a game I played, there was a time where there was a this was years ago, lone wolf player that did the sneaky, I'm going to pickpocket all the party while they're asleep and then leave. And I think the DM was very suspicious of what they were doing because they were like, I'm going to wake up before everybody else. I'm going to check out this and do this. And it was just like, all right, well, okay, I'll let you do some checks. Then he starts like pickpocketing people. And then by the end of it, the DM was clocked what they were doing and was like, right, now I have to counterbalance this because now you're going to leave this dungeon because we'd camped out in this like room. You know, if you've ever watched, what's the Netflix show? Is it Delicious in Dungeon?
oh yeah, Dungeon
Yeah,
Meshi. Yeah.
yeah, basically, like, do you know when they camp down for the night in like a room
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the dungeon? Very similar to that. And they decided to disappear. And he was like, right, well, you got to make some checks for me. And he just hit because it was punishment, basically, every trap. You know, everything was high DC and he was just failing everything. So it was like a spike trap. There was a fire trap. You know, he was getting smashed to bits and stuff until we eventually
Oh
caught up
dear.
with him late, and he was just like a mess, barely holding on. And you know, we had to heal him up and stuff. But it was like after the session, the DM, who was quite an experienced DM, and being younger kids, you're messing about because it's like, oh, it's D&D, oh, fucking hell, great. And it was just like, listen, guys, you know, it's all fun and games, but just remember you are a team. So doing that shit and sneaking off is not going to benefit you in this sort of environment. So please don't do that because it ruins the game for everybody. And we're all here to have fun. And don't steal from each other because that's just fucking lame. And I
That is
think it
really
was just
lame.
like,
Don't steal
yeah,
from
and
your allies. That's just
yeah.
lame.
And I think it was a bit of the shame got to them and they were like, okay, sorry. And it kind of was squashed and never happened again. But there was instances, unless you deal with it quickly, I was like, this could escalate into a bit of a situation where this person's going to become a problem.
This could be PvP waiting to happen.
Well, exactly. I mean, I think one of the fighter was like, if this carries on, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to, you know, smash this guy with my greatsword. So this guy's going to
Absolutely.
get it. He's going to get it. So
If someone starts telling me about a lone wolf that they want to run in a game of mine, I will always sort of, okay, you can be a lone wolf, but remember that you need to find a reason to be with this party. There needs to be a reason for you to be with the party.
yeah, there
Because
has to be some
otherwise,
conditions for this to work. Otherwise, what's the point?
yeah, because otherwise you're just going to end off by yourself, and this whole narrative is just going to fall apart because I can't prepare for the group because I've got to prepare for you on your own, and that's
Because you're slightly
frustrating.
dipping into main character syndrome as well.
Yes.
Of like, well, DM, you know, can't we just do like a cutscene where it's all me? And, you know, this is the voice I do of this, you know, we've heard it all before. Like, DM, I've got dark vision. Have you know? Yeah. It's that it's that guy.
DM, I think you're
DM, I
fine.
don't know if you know this.
I don't.
It's
I
that
don't know
guy.
if you know
It's that
this,
guy
but a
who
shoe bill, the shoe bill does not
it
do
does do
divine.
radiant damage.
Doesn't do
It's
radiant
actually
damage.
bludgeoning. Or it's that,
Shoot
yeah, the same sort
force
of player will be
damage.
like, guys, come on. We only know he's got like 20 hit points. The next one we'll kill him outright. You know, who knows the stat block? That person, you know? So
That
that's
winds me
what I
up. I
mean.
must
Yeah.
admit that if I hear
The stat
someone
blocky one.
actively doing that, if I hear someone doing that, I will say, I am the petty bitch.
Yeah.
If I
That's
hear
getting,
someone actively metagaming like that, well, actually, you know, guys, he's down to only 4 hit points based on the average stat block of a blah, blah, blah. I'll go, okay, no, max hit points, like full, if he's got D8 plus whatever, I'm
yeah.
maxing that shit out and I'm giving him some fucking potions because screw you,
Well,
I
yeah,
hate
that's
meta.
the
I
AC's
hate
going
it.
up, the HP's going up. They're going to have some legendary reactions all of a sudden now. And it's not what you
I
thought it was
hate it.
before.
I
But
absolutely hate it. I do
but
subvert
yeah,
those. I do subvert those anyway. So, like, if you meet a bandit at level 8, it's not going to be the same as a bandit at level 3.
precisely.
It's going to be a souped up bandit. So don't just assume just because I say, "Oh, it's a bandit." Don't assume it's going to be a bandit. It might be
It's
bandit
what you
2.
think it is. That's the sort of character, as we make fun of that guys, that one who's like does that sort of thing. And, they're the sort of person that I always associate with being that type of lone wolf character. But going like, DM, can we do like a cutscene where I'm just gonna do stuff on my own for a bit? It's like, well, no, because it's not about you, jerk off. It's about everybody else. And then I don't want everyone to sit here while we do a scene with you for about half an
Yeah.
hour, where you just fuck around and ponce about for a bit. And everyone else is
I
going, that's like an hour and a half of the session gone where we just sat around and listened to this twat.
doing things all on his own. I
Yeah,
always make sure if someone is off on their own doing something, I will jump between groups.
that's the best way to do it.
Okay, 5 to 10 minutes with this guy, 5 to 10 minutes with you lot, 5 to 10 minutes with this guy, 5 to 10 minutes with you lot. And I will sort of jump between the two because it's not fair for people to have to just sit there while you do. Now, if we're doing something like downtime, that might take a little bit longer. I might say, okay, so what are we doing for your okay, so you're doing that. All right, make me some roles. You make up your mind what you want to do in your downtime. We'll come to you in a minute. Okay, what's the results? All right, so this happens to you. And then I'll go through that. And that might take 15, 20 minutes. But then move on to that. Okay, did you think about what you wanted to do? Okay. Right, so you need to make me these roles. Person 3, you need to think about what you're doing. Move it along like that. Make sure everybody knows what order I'm doing it in and that sort of thing. But a lone wolf, I find that lone wolves generally do end up as problem players. Not necessarily
Yeah,
because of not necessarily because the player is bad, but because they've built this idea of the trope into their head. Like, it's gotta be me. I wisened up and realized it's just gotta be me out there, to quote Bill from
yeah.
Last of Us.
I think that's the problem. Is like you're saying, yeah, you don't have the intention to, but I think somehow it ends up going that way, and you're like, you've gone way off track now. You were gonna, you were like the aloof guy. Now you're full lone wolf, and we don't really know what to
Yeah.
do with you now.
The main issue is that you get the idea of you get the trope in your head, and you get rewarded for playing to your character's backstory. The little, you get your bonds and your flaws and shit like that. So you, generally speaking, the game is supposed to reward you for playing to those. So people try to stick to those. But I once ended up with a character sheet and a character who started with 1 flaw and 2 traits and ended up with 5 traits and 7 flaws, because you can collect flaws, you can change traits, you can shift and adjust and evolve, essentially. And her flaws became things like, I'm scared of being the person I used to be. I'm scared of going back there, or I'm scared
I
of
can't be that
this.
person anymore. I have
Yeah.
to, do something. And again, this is very similar to what I did with Hawthorne. He was like very much not quite lone wolf, as we've said, much like Mercy being the aloof person. But it was like, I didn't like the person I was before. I can't go back to that. So if it means I have to do stuff that will lead me back there, I will not be a part of that. But then he did kind of use some of his, highway bandit tendencies now and again to shine through. But that was just because
It
it
was
was, fun
was
character
quite
growth.
funny.
It just, it was like looking back but moving forward sort of attitude.
Yeah. So your flaws can evolve. They can become traits. I was once a lone wolf. Now I'll do anything to protect my friends. That's a bond. That's your bond now. That is evolved from a flaw into a bond. So there's no, yes, play to what's on your character sheet, but be aware that what's on your character sheet can change, because people change, people grow, people evolve, people do different things. It's not impossible to outright change your class. No matter what you say, you may start off as one thing and change to another. I recently just had a player who decided that the class he was playing just wasn't working for what they wanted to do, and they wanted to try something new. So we had a scene where we basically just stripped all of their old power from them, and they're currently ambling around without any power whatsoever, just their base stats. But they're going to get the opportunity to change their class because of it. So your lone wolf doesn't have to stay a lone wolf throughout the campaign. Your lone wolf can become a reformed loner. They can they can become a true companion, or you can fall into the you are not alone area.
Yeah.
You don't have to be alone anymore kind
Yeah.
of.
I was alone this day, but yeah. And yeah, that's, again, it's one of those
That
things where
is
that
that's a
works
Hawthorne and
better.
Kiva.
Yeah.
That's Hawthorne and Kiva. You are not alone because I am here for you. I believe in you, even if you don't believe in yourself. That's a you are
Yeah.
not alone.
Yeah.
And it's like you can shift into other tropes. There is nothing in any TTRPG that states you have to stay the same. You can move on, you can adapt, you can change. So you don't have to stick rigidly to that I'm the lone wolf. Maybe you know, my guy was a lone wolf for many, many years, but he received a vision that told him to go into town and find allies. That is your link. Your guy's still a lone wolf, but he got a vision. He needs to stay with these guys in order to achieve his goals.
Yeah, there's something that's happened. He's like, I've seen a vision of something that means whatever, like you say, hell or high water, I'm coming with you because this has to be done. And you guys, I've seen you in my dream. It doesn't have to be specific. You can be like, a cloak or a symbol or something, and be like, I'm associating that with you. So I'm coming with you hell or high water now. And I
Yeah.
think that works better than the, flash of the cloak and guys, I'm here to save the day, and now my work here is done, and boom, I'm gone.
Yeah.
It's lame. It's boring. It's not great.
It's annoying. So there we are. My advice for anyone wanting to play a lone wolf: overlap with the aloof ally and give yourself a viable in with the party. Yes, you are a lone wolf. You like to do things by yourself, but make sure that you have a good reason and purpose for being with the group. Don't
Yeah,
just think that it makes you sound cool. Just,
I'm this guy,
I'm
and
a
I'm the
badass.
coolest.
I work alone. No, you're a level 1 asshole. Just don't become a level 2 asshole.
Well, the
Come
thing
on.
is, again, if we're going to go to like pop culture references for that, you look at, again, Wolverine. Wolverine was the loner. He was the guy that was, in sort of that terms of the Ronin, the wanderer sort of warrior. Then he joined, Charles Xavier, helped unlock his memory and all that sort of stuff. So then he became useful at the school, helping other, mutants at the school. And it's that thing of like, listen, this happened to me. I was the loner. I was the guy that was the outsider. It doesn't happen to you. I'm going to help you with your, how to, like the mentor type. And I think that could work if you want to play the
Yeah.
lone wolf, but maybe play the grizzled veteran who's been out in the wilderness. And look, I may be outcut, I may have been out and about, but this is going to help you in the long run. And
Yeah.
that sort of mentor fatherly figure, if you can work it that way and get someone to kind of bounce off of, that can work, I feel.
Or, as we mentioned earlier as well, the person frightened that their presence will harm others.
Yeah. That's
Just
always a
make
good.
it something that can be found out. Don't be excessively precious on it, because it has to be found out at some point. Otherwise, you're
Yeah.
just being a pain in the bum.
And and that's it. And it just ruins the vibe, ruins the game, ruins the party. And it just gets to a point where you're like, I can't continue to play this character because it's too problematic now. And if you're not that sort of player who is obviously very sort of aware of that, then you'll be like, well, why don't anyone want to play with me anymore? Because of I always bring these lone wolf characters, they're going to cause trouble. But if you're aware, you can go, right, I need to pivot and get away from that because otherwise this is going to be a very short game for me as the player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I personally, I don't tend to play the lone wolf myself. I play characters that have been alone or who are alone at that time. But it's usually not through choice. It's usually because something's happened. They're in a situation. One of my characters was traveling alone because her companion was killed, and she couldn't stay where she was. She had to keep going. She was running away, so she had to keep moving. Her companion was killed, but they're dead. There's nothing I can do about it. So I have to carry on. And she just carried on alone because she didn't have any other friends or any other companions with her. She joined up with a group of people because safety in numbers.
Precisely.
I've also
Yeah.
played a character, a ranger, who travelled alone. She was travelling alone because she was sent alone. She was told, you have to go. We can only send you. Off you fuck, basically. Which,
Fair dues. Fair play. That makes total sense. But
but
so to
they
wrap
were never
go on.
lone wolves. They were
No.
never the lone wolf. They were never alone because they thought, I'll do better by myself. They were wary of others. They didn't necessarily disclose all their secrets straight up, but they were not lone wolves. They were never like, I work alone. No, I work better in a group. So I'm going to stick around with you guys because you seem like I could be useful to you, and B, you could be useful to me. So there we go.
Well, this is an interesting point, actually, as we're going to wrap this episode up. I was watching it was a fireside chat with Liam O'Brien, Critical Role, and he was talking about Caleb Widogast, and he was talking like his character when they first started was, he was this guy who was just wanted to steal knowledge. He was wanted to like get books and scrolls and any opportunity in their like quest. He'd be like, right, I'm having that. And it caused conflict in the party. And he was like, I was going to sunset him. Like Caleb was going to walk away because he was causing too much friction in the party and all this sort of stuff. And he was that
Yeah.
kind of lone wolfy character.
Yeah.
But what changed his mind was he said to Matt Mercer, I'm going to give it, I'm thinking about Caleb walking away and getting a new character, bringing a new character in. I think it'll work better. He's kind of got to the point where he's becoming a bit of a divisive figure in the group because he doesn't want to share with anybody. He just wants knowledge.
Yeah.
He's going to steal stuff and all that. And then Matt Mercer said to him, that's fine if that's what you do, but just remember, once you let him go, he's mine. So as like, that was his warning. He's like, if you want to
Wow.
get rid of this character, he then becomes an NPC and I get to control him. And what happens to him is what I decide what wants to happen. And he's like, just to make you aware that he's not yours anymore. He's my guy now. He's my NPC. And then that made him go, shit, I like him too much. I can't just be
Yeah.
like, I can't let him have his hands on him. As much as they love each other and, respect each other and play together so many years, he's like, no, because I don't know what's going to become of him. And I don't want that to happen if I have no
Yeah.
influence. So I've got to think about what I want, and it ended, great. And the character became, if you watch Critical Role campaign 2, Caleb Widogast became the dirt wizard who was like the loner guy with Knot and all that to, a quite respected member of the group who was like a mentor and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the warning. And that was like, I got to switch this around. And that's all it takes sometimes. It's like, if you're going to give him up, he's mine. And that's that.
What's nice about that, though, is that Liam, as a player, had enough, self-awareness and awareness of the group and the way the group was meshing to say, okay, this is starting to become problematic. Something needs to change. Now, his first instinct was obviously to sunset Caleb, but that doesn't necessarily need to be the way that it goes. I have had players come to me and say, I kind of want to. I've had one player come to me who said, I'm not feeling this character anymore. He's chaotic and he's served his purpose and he's just not useful anymore. And I was like, are you sure? Yeah, no, I love playing him, but he's disruptive and it's only going to get worse. And I don't think that I, as a player, can do that. And I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. But I've also had players come up to me and say, I'm a bit worried about this direction and I want to change it. I kind of want to do something else. I need something to happen. So, okay. So you need something to sort of nudge you in another direction. Okay.
Yeah.
And I then set up something for them, whether that's I will have them fail a check of some kind, or I will have someone else passively notice something, or maybe I will say to them, okay, well, what about the relationship with this person? You and that character are getting on really quite well. Do you think there's something that can be done there? Would a nudge in that direction help? Would you be okay with that? And then I'll speak to the other player character and say, okay, so we're trying to get a nudge in a certain direction here. Would you mind being a faithful accomplice in the nudging?
Yeah.
The nudgening hath begun. And the most of my players are like really keen. I say most because I've had like one or two that were a bit like,
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? You need that someone to be a catalyst to move them in that direction. But like I said, going back to Liam, that's what his idea was. I'll leave him, but I'll come back to him when I think the time's right, when I feel like, because he was conflicted about things. And then when he got once you hand him over,
here's
that's it.
mine.
And as the DM, it's my decision what happens and how he grows and what he becomes. Because you could see him later on down the line becoming like, because he was on course to become like a bad guy wizard, but he kind of escaped from that. But then he was like, he could end up going back to that route, being found and being brought back into that fold. And he was like, I don't want that. No fucking way. No chance. But so as we wrap this episode up then, for the lone wolf, what final bit of advice would you give to players if they felt that their character was going this way?
If you feel like your character is falling too far into the lone wolf trope, it's not too late to pull it back. Talk to your DM and to your fellow players, say, and just be honest, I feel like my character's falling into this thing. Is there something we can do to maybe naturally bring it around? Be open and honest. I wrote this guy as a lone wolf and I think it's detrimental, so I'm kind of looking for a way to fix that. Be honest. Tell them that. DMs, if you note someone lone wolfing it, seemingly oblivious to any of the damages they're causing, be gentle, but do talk to them. Just as like, you're aware that you're turning into a lone wolf, right? That could cause problems down the line. Are you sure that's the route you want to go? Are you certain that you want to be that? Because that's a very difficult path.
Yeah.
And it is a difficult path. The lone wolf in its purest form is a very difficult role to play from beginning to end.
And I think also to add to that, I think if you ask the player, where does this lead? Where do you see this going? I think 9 times out of 10, the player would go, well, actually, I don't really know. So they don't understand. Like, it's not like they're not picturing further down the line. Oh, well, I can see this. They're like, oh shit, yeah, you're right there. I haven't actually got a plan for this. You're just rolling along, and that's it. So yeah,
it's that whole where do you see us going? Well, we're all going to go, and then we're going to do my thing. So, are you? Because
is that how you think this is going to go?
Because the way you're treating others is going to push them away and they're not going to want to follow you. So just be aware of that. I have had this conversation with some people.
Players. Yeah.
Yeah. Just be aware that the way that you're treating, this was in regards to NPCs. I'm going to put that out there. This was in regards to the way they were treating NPCs, but it rings true for player characters as well. If you keep pushing people away or treating them like they're dog shit, they're not going to want to be there for you when the shit hits the fan. They won't help you.
Yeah, no. It's going to be very much like, thanks, but no thanks, bud. Catch you later.
If you won't make an effort with them they are not going to bother with you.
Exactly. And on that note, I think that'll be a ringing in your ears, those last final words, as we wrap up this episode on the lone wolf. So, again, we hope you take something from this. And if you experience the lone wolf behavior, let us know. Talk about it. Send the messages in to us and tell us all about if you've experienced lone wolf players.
Yes,
or if you yourself are a lone wolf.
Are you a
How's
lone wolf?
it benefited you?
Yeah.
How's it worked out for
how
you?
have you been? How's that going for you guys? Do you think you're playing it well? Are you doing it well? Tell us all about it. We love to hear from you. You can find us on the socials. You can find us over on Blue Sky. Very exciting. Very blue skies and green grass and all that shit, I'm sure. You can still find us over on the Zitter, although we must admit it's a little bit quieter over there for the moment. You can find us on the Tumblr. It is quieter. Sorry, guys. I don't personally spend a lot of time on the Zitter anymore, so not a lot happens there. We still get the notifications, though, so if you are a Zitter user, please, you can still message us. We still get the pings. It's fine. We are on Tumblr, so you can tumble at us. Do you tumble at people? I don't know. I still don't know the lingo over there. I'm not sure. You can find us on Mastodon. Send us big, long, short posts on the Mastodon. I don't know why I'm doing all of this like hand movements in front of my camera. Like this is an audio thing. This isn't going out with video.
People can't see this, but you and I.
No, but I'm doing this anyway. I do it all the time. It's really stupid. So yeah, you can find us on the Mastodon, or you can find us on our website. Just stick into your search bar Two Kobolds in a Trench Coat podcast, or KIAT podcast. It's Two Kiat podcast. Do include the podcast, otherwise you get cars, which is nice, but not correct.
If that's what you're looking for.
If that's what you're into. If you like Kias, like I do. I do quite like Kias, but you know. So, yes, go over to there, send us a message. You can drop us messages, emails, all sorts. We are very giddy and happy to receive messages because it means someone out there likes us. So, please do.
Exactly.
And if you really like us, you can send us a coffee or a tea or something. Pop £3 into the little Kobold cash, and eventually we're going to spend that on getting a domain name. So then we can tell you what our website is actually called, because at the moment it's stupid and long. So yeah,
exactly.
Protect your kobolds.
Yes. So thank you for listening. We hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.